A furious Dietrich Morrison shatters the silence by screaming Rubina's name. He aggressively demands to know why she abandoned him and went home the previous day without a single word. Cruelly mocking her devotion, he spits that even a lowly dog knows how to wait quietly for its master. The harsh insult triggers a flashback to a few days prior, beginning the dramatic reversal story of a girl treated worse than a hound. Separated into different academy classes, a dedicated Rubina meticulously prepares a morning lunch for her fiancé, Diet. 2 months into their Royal Academy life, the couple had forged a sacred promise to share their midday meals together. 15-year-old Rubina Rosen, a viscountess's daughter, crafts a hearty roast beef sandwich with high hopes of bringing him joy. She finishes the lovingly made meal, her heart fluttering with the innocent anticipation of seeing his bright smile. Bidding her mother farewell, Rubina confidently promises to return by evening while her loyal guard pledges to ensure her absolute safety. Her mother nods with gentle authority, officially entrusting the young noblewoman's protection to the watchful escort. The opulent carriage lurches forward, carrying the hopeful girl through the vibrant and bustling city streets. Sunlight gleams off the carriage windows as it makes its steady, uninterrupted advance toward the prestigious academy grounds. Spotting a highly reputed imported goods shop along the route, an intrigued Rubina decides to halt the carriage and investigate. Browsing the exotic wares, she actively seeks to expand her culinary repertoire beyond the simple dishes she currently cooks without the head chef. Rows of fascinating ingredients capture her undivided attention, sparking fresh inspiration for future lunches. Outside the quiet shop, the city's lively rhythm marches on unabated. A sudden, sharp knock echoes through the air, instantly breaking her peaceful concentration. A respectful servant steps forward, politely asking if Lady Rubina requires any immediate assistance. Brushing off the offer, Rubina's sharp eyes lock onto a heavily pregnant woman struggling in the distance. Noting the stranger's agonizingly heavy luggage, the compassionate noblewoman commands her guard to step in and help. The guard hesitates at leaving her unescorted, but Rubina fiercely insists she can manage the rest of the journey alone. The expectant mother gasps in pure shock at the unexpected grace of a highborn stranger. Stepping closer, Rubina generously offers her own personal carriage to transport the weary woman safely to her destination. Ignoring the commoner's frantic protests about troubling a noble, Rubina orders her guard to take the heavy bags. Tears of immense gratitude well in the woman's eyes as she softly thanks her noble savior. The carriage wheels clatter away over the cobblestones, officially leaving Rubina stranded but deeply satisfied. Staring down the long road, she realizes the 20-minute trek to the academy will be a grueling physical test. Refusing to yield to regret, she cheerfully frames the unexpected hike as a perfect opportunity to cure her recent lack of exercise. She finally breaches the towering gates of the Royal Academy, a massive institution divided into elite knight, official, and nobility courses. Rubina suddenly panics as she realizes she completely forgot to bring the lunchbox after parting with her carriage. Dietrich mercilessly questions how anyone could normally forget such a thing, entirely ignoring her frantic attempts to explain the morning's chaotic events. Exhaling a heavy sigh of pure annoyance, the 16-year-old Earl's son coldly mutters that nothing she does ever works out. Without a shred of empathy, Dietrich rigidly pivots away and declares they will just eat in the cafeteria, brushing past her quiet apology. Rubina stands absolutely paralyzed, her hopeful smile shattering into a mask of silent devastation. The vibrant light drains from her eyes as the crushing weight of his profound indifference fully registers. Rubina's world shatters as she overhears Dietrich cruelly complaining that her unexciting lunches were nothing but a tedious nuisance all along. A sickening heaviness settles in Rubina's chest, instantly spoiling the lifelong relief she once felt about their politically convenient, neighboring territory engagement. Oblivious to her pain, Dietrich enthusiastically changes the subject to Patricia, a rare and fascinating female student destined to inherit an earldom in his business course. He openly praises Patricia for speaking her mind with refreshing clarity, declaring her vastly superior and much more fun to talk to than a typical noble lady. A cold, dark shadow engulfs Rubina's fragile heart as the crushing realization dawns that speaking with her brings him absolutely no joy. Dietrich coldly affirms a sudden, calculating thought as they walk together. He announces an invitation to Ian's birthday party and demands they buy a present this weekend. He strictly explains that arriving with a jointly picked gift makes his noble engagement look much better. Dismissing her feelings entirely, Dietrich claims Rubina could never comprehend the complexities of male friendship. Rubina silently acknowledges that the Morrison Earl family outranks her Rosen Viscount family in their joint projects. Despite her growing anxiety about the engagement, she knows refusing him is strictly forbidden. She quietly marvels at Diet's impressive strategic mind, feeling vastly inferior to his sharp intellect. Resigning herself to her fate, she solemnly reflects that a noble marriage is a rigid duty rather than a romantic ideal. Swallowing her heavy dread, she vows to endure the political union if it successfully secures her household's future. She gently confirms their current mission to buy a birthday present for a party happening in 2 weeks. A quiet realization strikes her that Ian's party falls immediately after her own upcoming birthday. Hurt that Diet completely ignored her special day, she wonders what kind of gifts other couples exchange. A loud greeting shatters her thoughts as a flashy girl named Shiaka eagerly interrupts their shopping. Shiaka quickly identifies Rubina as Diet's fiancé from their brief encounter at the academy lunch. Masking her shock, Rubina respectfully bows and formally introduces herself to the energetic newcomer. Shiaka blatantly sizes her up, bluntly declaring that the Viscountess's daughter appears far too reserved. Confirming Diet's previous gossip, Shiaka loudly notes that Rubina is her exact personality opposite. Openly doubting Rubina's usefulness, Shiaka insists that Ian prefers much flashier gifts. Dietrich immediately agrees with the interruption, praising Shiaka's vastly superior taste in presents. The two completely ignore Rubina, laughing as they happily select vibrant colors for their mutual friend. Rubina internalizes the stinging slight, silently translating the word reserved into a harsh insult. She realizes the cruel duo simply views her as a plain and utterly boring companion. Feeling completely alienated, Rubina quietly steps away to keep a safe distance from the lively pair. She drifts through the elegant shop alone, leaving Diet and Shiaka to their exclusive amusement. Her eyes lock onto a simple yet incredibly stylish item prominently displayed on the store shelf. She carefully admires the elegant sheen of the beautifully crafted merchandise. The chic, mature quality of the men's items genuinely captivates her lonely attention. Despite the earlier humiliation, Rubina finds a small sliver of joy in peacefully browsing the store. Inspired by the fine goods, she considers hunting down future gifts for her own father and brother. Turning back with renewed spirits, she tries to check if Dietrich has finally made his decision. A cold wave of confusion washes over her as she finds the aisle completely empty. She desperately scans the deserted storefront, finding absolutely no trace of her supposed fiancé. A helpful bystander gently informs the devastated girl that her male companion abruptly left with another woman. Paralyzed by the cruel abandonment, a lost Rubina frantically wonders what she should do next. Pushing open the chiming door, she steps out into the loud street with her heart pounding in rising panic. She frantically looks left and right, desperately trying to guess which direction the treacherous pair fled. Fearing she might get hopelessly lost, she forces herself to stay planted right outside the shop. Agonizing minutes drag into hours as she stands perfectly still, enduring 3 full hours of humiliating abandonment. The sun dips below the horizon, plunging the city into a dark evening as she realizes she must head home. Terrified of recent kidnappers, a stranded Rubina debates alerting the knights to safely notify her family. Stranded and anxious, Rubina frantically wonders what she should do when a sudden voice calls out to her. A gentle hand extends a steaming cup, politely asking if the distressed lady would like some tea inside. Startled by the unexpected kindness, Rubina quickly turns toward the calming voice. Panic flashes in her eyes as she hastily raises her hands to decline the sudden invitation. Flustered and defensive, she begs the kind stranger not to trouble himself over her. The man softly reveals he brewed the tea specifically for her, hoping she would share her thoughts on its scent. Touched by his profound consideration, Rubina feels her tight anxiety begin to gently unravel. Yielding to his warmth, she gratefully accepts his generous offer to step inside and enjoy the brew. The heavy door swings open as the man politely apologizes for the slight delay. Stepping into the comforting light, he formally introduces himself as Jay Hudson, the owner of the shop. Bowing slightly in return, she respectfully reveals her own identity as Rubina Rosen. Jay warmly gestures toward a chair, which Rubina accepts with a quiet, gracious thank you. Settling into the seat, Rubina takes a delicate, hesitant sip of the steaming beverage. Her eyes widen in genuine delight as she loudly praises the incredibly delicious flavor. She marvels at how the sweet, easy-to-drink aroma instantly fills her with a deep sense of comfort. Overwhelmed by a sudden wave of relief, Tears stream down her face as she apologizes for breaking down. Jay watches her with gentle sympathy, sincerely expressing his gladness that she finally feels safe. Recalling her earlier situation, he carefully asks where her missing companion went. Looking down with a heavy heart, Rubina softly admits that they somehow got separated. She self-deprecatingly claims she was useless as a consultant while he searched for a friend's gift. Blaming herself entirely, she explains that he got absorbed with another friend because she foolishly walked away. Jay gently counters her guilt by pointing out that the shop is small enough for her companion to have easily called out. Rubina mournfully assumes her fiancé simply enjoyed shopping with his flashy new friend instead of her. She quietly reflects that a normal fiancé could have gone home and complained about the disrespectful slight. Realizing such a healthy confrontation would have been perfectly fine, her heart sinks further. Despairingly, she confesses her absolute inability to stand up for herself in any situation. Convinced of her own worthlessness, Rubina admits she cannot express her thoughts and assumes he finds her terribly boring. Jay instantly rejects this harsh self-assessment, reminding her that she just freely expressed her wonderful thoughts about his tea. With a proud, comforting smile, he reveals that he personally blended the very tea she praised. He softly confesses that her honest, kind words brought him genuine and profound happiness. Jay earnestly advises her that bravely sharing both good and bad feelings holds the power to completely change her world. Looking her in the eye, he firmly declares there is absolutely no need for her to keep silently enduring. A sudden, sharp knock at the door announces the prompt arrival of a prepared carriage. Startled by the quick, decisive arrangement, Rubina looks up in utter surprise. Noting the quickly setting sun, Jay gallantly asks for her address and offers to safely escort her home. While deeply grateful for his rescue, Rubina hesitates at the dangerous thought of a stranger escorting her. She respectfully apologizes, citing her parents' strict, unbending instructions to never follow strangers. Stating she will simply carry his encouraging words in her heart, she prepares to politely decline the ride. Jay chuckles at her parents' undeniable wisdom but counters that he was strictly taught never to leave a lady in trouble unattended. Respecting her boundaries flawlessly, he smoothly pivots and promises to call a trusted female staff member to accompany her instead. Bowing gracefully, Jay earnestly requests that the noble lady allow him to feel at ease by personally escorting her safely home. The kind shop owner extends a reassuring hand, offering his steadfast protection to the anxious girl. Overcome by his profound chivalry, a deeply moved Rubina softly accepts his generous offer and humbly begs for his assistance. The elegant carriage rattles smoothly through the evening streets, carrying a profoundly grateful Rubina away from the scene of her humiliation. A sharp, familiar voice shatters the peaceful evening as someone loudly calls out Rubina's name upon her arrival at the estate. Her deeply worried mother rushes forward to check on her, frantically questioning if Dietrich had already headed home without her. Hesitating for a brief moment, the exhausted noblewoman quietly prepares to explain the heartbreaking truth of her disastrous afternoon. A painful image flashes through her mind, vividly replaying the cruel moment Dietrich eagerly abandoned her for the flashier Chiaka. A heavy silence fills the opulent room as the crushing reality of her fiancé's profound indifference fully sinks into her fragile heart. Despite his terrible betrayal, the excessively kind Rubina foolishly wonders if Dietrich ever bothered to look for her or if he made it home safely. Feeling entirely powerless as a mere child, she resolves to let her father handle the Morrison household while making a mental note to formally thank Mr. Hudson. Sitting alone in her quiet room, she miserably reflects on how utterly helpless and paralyzed she felt throughout the entire humiliating ordeal. She gravely acknowledges that without Jay Hudson's sudden intervention, she would have been completely stranded in the dangerous city streets. The agonizing memory of standing alone for hours resurfaces, recalling how she desperately hoped her fiancé would eventually return for her. She remembers the paralyzing fear of being left completely alone, entirely unsure of how to navigate her way back to the family estate. Tears of deep frustration prick her eyes as she bitterly recalls her absolute inability to take decisive action in the midst of a crisis. The suffocating anxiety of that terrible moment washes over her again, reminding her of how pure fear completely froze her in place. Suddenly, Jay's empowering words echo warmly in her mind, gently reminding her that she absolutely no longer needs to silently endure such mistreatment. Determined to break her submissive habits, Rubina fiercely resolves to change her life before turning 16 and officially becoming a recognized adult next week. Clenching her fists with newfound resolve, she firmly vows to confront Dietrich and demand a proper conversation the very next day. The morning sun brightly illuminates the bustling academy grounds, signaling the start of Rubina's highly anticipated and nerve-wracking confrontation. Unaware of the impending drama, cheerful students casually greet each other and chatter loudly about their upcoming daily classes. Spotting her fiancé in the crowded hallway, a nervous but fiercely determined Rubina bravely steps forward to initiate a morning greeting. Reaching out, she tentatively asks Dietrich to wait so they can finally discuss the traumatic and confusing events of the previous afternoon. Stopping dead in his tracks, Dietrich whips around with a terrifyingly dark scowl etching deeply across his aristocratic face. Before she can utter another word, he brutally cuts her off, coldly commanding her to shut her incredibly noisy mouth. He glares fiercely down at his trembling fiancée with absolute disgust, completely ignoring her visible distress and obvious confusion. Flinching back from his sudden hostility, Rubina stammers in pure shock at his wildly unprovoked and overwhelming fury. Flipping the narrative entirely, an enraged Dietrich aggressively accuses her of forcing him to wait all day for her return. Screaming at the top of his lungs, he cruelly spits that even a lowly dog knows exactly how to quietly wait for its master. Continuing his vicious verbal assault, he loudly declares that a simple street hound possesses infinitely more loyalty than she ever could. He aggressively scolds her supposed lack of basic education, arrogantly warning her that he will only forgive her imaginary transgression this one final time. The vicious screaming instantly draws a massive crowd of whispering students, turning the private confrontation into a highly public and devastating humiliation. Treating her exactly like a disobedient pet, he arrogantly announces a strict suspension of their shared daily lunches to properly train her patience. Without a single ounce of remorse, the arrogant Earl's son aggressively spins on his heel and marches away down the long, crowded corridor. Crushed by his overwhelming momentum, a devastated Rubina stands completely paralyzed, utterly failing to defend herself against his outrageous and completely fabricated lies. Clinging to a desperate sliver of hope, she silently prays that he will eventually calm down and actually listen to her side of the story the following day. She foolishly convinces herself that if she simply communicates better, the cruel boy will finally understand her fragile and deeply hurt feelings. Days agonizingly bleed into an entire week, with Dietrich completely ignoring her repeated, whispered pleas for a proper and civil conversation. Facing his absolute and crushing silence, she pins her final hopes on her upcoming birthday party, praying the intimidating presence of his noble parents will finally force him to acknowledge her. Rubina eagerly calls out to her older brother as he approaches. She warmly thanks him for his invaluable help with the day's busy preparations. Luke proudly declares he will do anything to make her important social debut an unforgettable memory. Rubina finally steps out in her elegant dress, leaving her brother absolutely stunned by her beauty. He dramatically praises her pure white frills as dazzling angel wings, causing Rubina to humbly brush off the exaggerated compliment. Shifting the focus, Luke asks about her academy friends, and Rubina excitedly confirms their eager participation. She beams with pure excitement for the grand celebration ahead. The devoted older brother passionately expresses his sheer eagerness to finally hear all about her academy life. Gently teasing him not to overwhelm her with questions, she proudly names him the coolest escort ever. Beaming with immense pride, Luke humbly accepts the ultimate honor of escorting his exceptionally cute little sister. Rubina offers a soft, heartfelt thanks for his unwavering support. Opening the grand doors, the siblings confidently step forward to officially celebrate Rubina's 16th birthday. The magnificent ballroom erupts in cheers as the siblings finally make their grand entrance. Smiling guests warmly call out her name in joyous celebration. A chorus of sincere birthday wishes instantly surrounds the radiant young noblewoman. Overwhelmed by the outpouring of love, Rubina graciously thanks the gathered crowd. Stepping gracefully into her hostess role, she proudly introduces her distinguished brother Luke to her excited academy friends. Despite playfully pouting over being treated like a child, she feels immense relief seeing so many supportive friends in attendance. Her classmates openly envy their tight sibling bond, admitting they have heard countless wonderful stories about him. A formal voice suddenly cuts through the joyous chatter, shifting the atmosphere entirely. Earl Morrison formally extends his birthday wishes, prompting Rubina to respectfully thank her fiancé's father for his attendance. Spotting Dietrich nearby, she quietly attempts to arrange a desperately needed private conversation. True to his cruel nature, Dietrich completely ignores her plea, leaving Rubina stinging from the familiar disrespect. Suddenly, Dietrich enthusiastically calls out to the flashy Shiaka, shocking Rubina with the uninvited guest's arrival. Confusion and dread instantly grip Rubina as she stares at the completely uninvited girl invading her sacred debut. Catching the disturbance, Luke sharply asks if the flashy newcomer is an official guest, to which Rubina quietly answers no. Connecting the dots to Rubina's recent struggles, Luke intensely asks if this is the girl from the shopping incident, which Rubina softly confirms. A fierce, protective shadow falls over Luke's face as he firmly commands his sister to leave the trespasser Eni to him. Snapping her out of her shock, Luke smartly orders Rubina to immediately guide the rest of the noble guests to the dining hall. He strictly reminds her to stand tall and flawlessly fulfill her host duties without letting anyone sense a hint of trouble. Gathering her shattered courage, Rubina fiercely pumps herself up, repeatedly chanting that she can handle this crisis. She visibly straightens her posture, forcing a polite and perfectly calm smile onto her trembling face. Projecting flawless noble grace, she warmly thanks the massive crowd for honoring her special day. With a sweeping, elegant gesture, she loudly announces that the lavish celebratory meal is fully prepared. She confidently leads the excited throng of nobles forward with a practiced, welcoming smile. Flawlessly executing her duties, she directs the flowing crowd smoothly toward the grand dining hall. Beneath her perfect exterior, a furious fire ignites as she questions Dietrich's sheer audacity to invite another woman to his own fiancé's party. Her heart pounds with rising, barely contained outrage at the staggering level of disrespect. She bitterly realizes his selfish actions very nearly ruined a beautiful event painstakingly prepared by her loving family. A fierce resolve crystallizes in her mind as she vows never to forgive him for disrespecting her event and forcing her brother to step in. Burning with fierce resolve, Rubina silently vows that her fiancé's latest betrayal is absolutely unforgivable. Gathering her parents privately after the chaotic academy debut, she warmly thanks them for everything they have done. Taking a deep breath, the nervous noblewoman carefully bridges the difficult topic of her long-standing engagement to Diet. Bowing her head in deep submission, she bravely requests their formal permission to end the political arrangement immediately. She acknowledges Diet as a childhood friend from a neighboring territory but admits her initial gratitude has completely vanished. Refusing to let Diet's cold attitude trouble her family any further, she abandons her naive hope of fixing their fractured bond. Demonstrating her unwavering commitment to her family despite the title gap, she fiercely promises to help manage their territory. To her absolute astonishment, her father gently orders her to lift her head and instantly grants her request to break the engagement. Pure shock ripples across Rubina's face as she processes her father's lightning-fast and unhesitating approval. Wasting no time, her father firmly declares that they will execute the termination of this disastrous union immediately. He swiftly presents official engagement termination documents and kindly directs his stunned daughter to sign them. Rubina gasps as her wide eyes lock onto the freshly inked signatures of both Earl Morrison and Diet already on the paperwork. Stunned by this impossible sight, she frantically questions how her family obtained the required signatures so incredibly fast. Her father reveals that ever since the terrifying town incident, they had actively worried about her future and prepared for this exact moment. He proudly explains that her brother Luke masterminded the entire legal process in advance to secure the signatures effortlessly. Overwhelmed by her family's fierce protective love, thick tears of profound relief rapidly pool in Rubina's widened eyes. Weeping openly with pure joy, she passionately thanks her endlessly supportive parents for their unwavering dedication. Grasping the pen with absolute certainty, she fiercely declares her feelings decided and signs her name to reclaim her freedom. She tenderly explains that she purposely waited until after her social debut to handle this heavy burden as a responsible adult. Her mother warmly smiles, reassuring her that even as a grown adult, she remains their cherished daughter who can always seek their help. With the oppressive weight finally lifted, her beaming father cheerfully calls for champagne to properly toast Rubina's brilliant celebration. Crystal glasses clink together in a joyous chorus as her loving family enthusiastically congratulates her on this triumphant new beginning. Relishing the peaceful atmosphere, Rubina delightfully realizes that all the dark, agonizing feelings from earlier have completely evaporated. She happily attributes her newfound lightness to the wonderful celebration surrounded by people who truly value and cherish her. Returning to her quiet room, a curious Rubina spots an unfamiliar, beautifully wrapped present resting mysteriously on her table. She carefully unwraps the unexpected gift to discover an elegant, premium tin of aromatic tea waiting inside. A sharp gasp escapes her lips as she reads the sender's name and realizes the kind shop owner, J. Hudson, sent it. A handwritten letter reveals Jay gifted her his original, exclusive blend after discovering it was her special birthday. Jay's heartwarming note expresses his sincere wish for her peace and warmly invites the young noblewoman back to his shop. Holding the tin close to her chest, Rubina inhales the sweet, gentle aroma that instantly brings a comforting smile to her face. Filled with immense gratitude, she resolves to visit his shop again very soon to properly thank him for the thoughtful present. She deeply wishes to express her heartfelt appreciation for the crucial, life-changing encouragement he provided on her darkest day. Meanwhile, a furious Earl Morrison aggressively confronts a highly confused Dietrich over his disastrously insulting actions at the party. Flailing defensively, a completely clueless Diet screams at his father, demanding to know what he possibly did to deserve such wrath. Utterly lacking any self-awareness, the foolish boy continues to yell, desperately pleading his absolute innocence to the enraged Earl. The furious Earl directly attacks his idiot son's sheer audacity to invite a random young lady to his fiancé's event without permission. Attempting a pathetic excuse, Diet arrogantly claims he brought Chiaka simply because she wanted to come, viewing his friend as Rubina's friend. He foolishly doubles down on his delusion, ridiculously arguing that it is completely natural for all women to automatically get along. Snapping completely, Earl Morrison brutally strikes his hopelessly dense son while screaming at him for being an absolute idiot. The Earl viciously scolds his muscle-brained fool of a son as Diet cowers in pain, having completely destroyed his own engagement through sheer ignorance. Earl Morrison violently shatters the silence, demanding the absolute truth about his son's disastrous actions in town. He furiously accuses Dietrich of abandoning Miss Rubina to play around with another woman before cowardly slinking home without a word. Scrambling to save face, a panicked Diet lies that Rubina foolishly walked home alone while arguing she should have at least left him a message. The enraged Earl instantly crushes his lie, screaming that Diet heartlessly abandoned Miss Rubina in front of the shop until evening. Flailing for an excuse, the foolish boy desperately downplays his cruel betrayal by shouting that he only left her alone for 3 hours. Diet arrogantly insists he properly returned to pick her up later, furiously blaming a traumatized Rubina for daring to go home first. Refusing to entertain the nonsense, Earl Morrison coldly commands his son to shut his mouth, utterly refusing to listen to his ugly excuses. The fierce patriarch reveals that these damning accusations are the undeniable result of a thorough, independent household investigation. Pressing the attack, the Earl corners Diet about his horrifying behavior at the academy, demanding the truth about the abusive remarks he desperately tried to hide. Diet ridiculously claims he was merely disciplining his disobedient fiancée, arguing that leaving without saying anything is an unforgivable offense. Continuing his delusional rant, the ignorant boy boasts about showing profound generosity by forgiving her this one time with a strict warning. Boiling with absolute outrage, the Earl fiercely strikes back, roaring that the only one who desperately needs discipline is Diet himself. Diet's heartbroken mother steps in to lament their failure in raising him, declaring that marrying a man who called Rubina worse than a dog is utterly impossible. Utterly blind to his own cruelty, Diet stubbornly dismisses Rubina as nothing more than a selfish woman who went home without telling him. Reaching his absolute limit, the Earl firmly declares that the conversation is completely over and the political engagement has been officially dissolved. As Diet reels in complete confusion, his furious father sternly forbids him from ever having anything to do with Miss Rubina again. The Earl ruthlessly points out that Diet ignorantly signed the dissolution paperwork earlier, questioning how the idiot completely failed to understand what he was reading. Pure panic finally shatters Diet's arrogant facade as he realizes the mysterious document he mindlessly signed officially ended his lucrative engagement. Sweating profusely, the terrified boy screams that this must be a joke while staring in utter horror at his furious, unyielding parents. Clinging to his fading delusions, Diet arrogantly asks if they are truly fine with Rubina staying single her whole life without him to rescue her. He viciously insults his former fiancée, calling her so plain and unnoticeable that she doesn't even have a single male friend. Before he can finish boasting that he was kindly marrying her out of sheer pity, his enraged father violently screams his name. The Earl fiercely destroys his son's ego, roaring that numerous prestigious families desperately want ties with the Rosen Viscount family while Diet remains completely unworthy of her. Delivering the final crushing blow, the patriarch coldly reiterates that the official annulment is already an inescapable, finalized reality. Earl Morrison brutally commands his disgraced son to stay out of sight and never cause their family any more political trouble. Meanwhile, in another opulent household, an enraged count violently screams at his foolish daughter for her own catastrophic actions. He furiously berates the flashy girl for having the sheer audacity to crash the Rosen Viscount family's party completely uninvited. Clutching his head in pure despair, the count realizes he can no longer show his face to the Viscount and openly laments what his idiotic daughter has done. Utterly clueless to the gravity of her political disaster, the arrogant girl flippantly asks if a mere social blunder is really worth being so depressed over. She carelessly questions why her noble father is acting so incredibly careful and fearful around a family holding a mere Viscount title. Puffing out her chest with misplaced pride, she arrogantly declares that their mighty Count family should never have to bow their heads to a lowly Viscount. She falsely claims she elevated the party's status by wearing a glamorous dress, foolishly bragging that she even secured permission from the girl's own fiancé. The horrified Count immediately realizes his daughter's careless actions amount to aggressively and publicly stealing someone else's fiancé. Genuinely confused by his panic, the dense girl insists Diet is just a classmate and completely denies stealing anyone from anybody. She dismissively claims she only befriended Diet because they both hail from Count families, completely missing the massive political disaster she triggered. Her frustrated father brutally shatters her ego by revealing that their shallow family history only began when her grandfather bought their noble title with raw money. He fiercely educates his ignorant daughter, revealing that the deeply respected Rosen Viscount family has maintained strong royal ties for countless generations. Stubbornly clinging to her false superiority, she foolishly argues that they remain below them, totally unaware that the Viscount actively refuses His Majesty's frequent offers to elevate their rank. The Count aggressively explains that the Rosen family continuously declines the promotion because they pridefully support the entire nation through their historic Viscount title. He crushes her arrogance completely, declaring that a pathetic, second-generation Count family with zero achievements cannot even begin to compare to the historic power of the Rosen Viscount family. Defiantly crossing her arms, Patricia arrogantly argues that a noble title isn't everything. She callously dismisses the severity of her social blunder, sneering, "So what?" at her furious father. Attempting to justify her treasonous actions, she falsely claims she never intended to steal a fiancé and only attended the party with permission. Doubling down on her cruelty, she insults Rubina as an unpleasant, plain woman who makes a massive deal out of absolutely nothing. The exhausted Count stares at his delusional daughter, utterly astounded by her staggering lack of self-awareness. Cutting off her nonsense, he strictly forbids her from leaving the estate except for the academy and vows to personally apologize to the Rosen Viscount. Shocked by the harsh confinement, a panicked Patricia screams that she did absolutely nothing wrong. Roaring with absolute fury, the enraged Count violently commands his foolish daughter to shut her mouth. He fiercely declares he will completely control her future since she single-handedly turned their entire family into a pathetic laughingstock. Glaring down at the terrified girl, he ominously begins to dictate her bleak fate from this point forward. Pure terror finally breaks through Patricia's arrogance as she frantically screams for her father to explain his dark meaning. A few days later, a luxurious carriage rattles to a halt outside Jay Hudson's charming storefront. Stepping inside the elegant shop, Rubina's father politely asks the owner if it is acceptable for them to express their gratitude in person. The Viscount notes that although noble families usually handle such affairs formally, he wanted to personally thank Jay for his recent kindness. The cheerful shop bell rings loudly as the father warmly greets the respectful Mr. Hudson. Bowing deeply, a grateful Rubina sincerely thanks Jay for rescuing her the other day and for sending such a wonderful birthday present. Matching her graceful etiquette, Jay bows his head and deeply appreciates the young noblewoman's exquisite politeness. He gently apologizes if casually mentioning her birthday previously made her feel obligated to send a return gift. The kind merchant smoothly clarifies he simply wanted to gift her the exclusive tea because she had praised its delicious flavor. Smiling warmly, the Viscount agrees with his daughter's assessment and praises the tea's exceptionally delicious taste. Shifting the pleasant conversation, Jay politely asks if the two ladies have any free time after their current visit. He reveals a batch of exciting new product samples, eagerly expressing his desire to hear a refined woman's honest opinion. Turning to his daughter, the Viscount calmly asks Rubina what she thinks of the merchant's intriguing proposal. Flustered but deeply eager, Rubina happily volunteers to assist him in any way she possibly can. Checking his schedule, Her father announces he has pressing business to attend to and promises to pick them up in exactly 1 hour. The protective Viscount formally entrusts his precious daughter and her maid to Jay's care before gracefully exiting the shop. Jay unveils a remarkably cute bottle, proudly presenting his brand new prototype perfume specifically designed for women. Hoping to expand into female-oriented products, he earnestly asks the ladies to evaluate the prototype's wonderful fragrance. Rubina instantly praises the refreshing, pleasant scent before curiously turning to ask her maid Lily for her thoughts. An enthusiastic Lily completely agrees, excitedly noting that the lively fragrance suits Lady Rubina's elegant aura perfectly. The passionate maid rapidly suggests pairing the scent with today's dress and a modest hairstyle adorned with violet earrings to truly make it pop. Blushing furiously at her own unbridled excitement, Lily hastily bows and begs forgiveness for her sudden, unprofessional outburst. Proudly defending her friend, Rubina explains that the fashion-sensitive Lily personally coordinated today's beautiful outfit. Observing the heartwarming dynamic, a smiling Jay gently notes that Miss Rubina is clearly deeply loved by everyone around her. Caught entirely off guard by the sincere compliment, a bright red blush rapidly spreads across Rubina's face. Attempting to deflect the praise, she bashfully assumes he views her as a cute, helpless little animal just like her teasing brother does. Terribly flustered, she bows her head and desperately begs the charming shop owner to stop exaggerating his praises. Standing nearby, a highly amused Lily grins teasingly at her delightfully embarrassed mistress. Turning his legendary charm toward the blushing maid, Jay generously offers Lily her very own perfume sample from his large stock. Overwhelmed by the incredibly precious noble gift, a frantic Lily waves her hands and strongly hesitates to accept it. Handing over the item, the shopkeeper warmly expresses gratitude and politely requests a recommendation to friends. A deep breath fills the air, drawing in the lingering fragrance of the surrounding blooms. Impressed by the sharp observation, the speaker confirms the sweet perfume carries the distinct notes of roses and violets. Delighted by the connection, Rubina proudly notes her dress features beautiful violet embroidery to match her favorite flower. The conversation turns to symbolism as the flower's meaning is revealed to represent profound modesty and unwavering sincerity. Rubina lights up with joy, expressing her genuine fondness for the flower's sweet scent and adorable appearance. A wave of insecurity washes over her as she wonders if the comparison means she appears plain and entirely unnoticeable. Attempting to calm her racing heart, she anxiously rationalizes that the violet represents refreshing and modest qualities. Flushing with deep embarrassment, Rubina realizes his claim that it suits her perfectly might have been a direct, romantic compliment. He smoothly explains his assumption that noble ladies naturally gravitate toward the flashy elegance of grand roses or lilies. With a gentle smile, he confesses that the beautifully understated charm of the delicate violets instantly reminded him of Rubina. Stunned by the unexpected praise, Rubina softly repeats his words as the compliment deeply sinks in. A quiet moment stretches between them, heavy with unspoken tension and budding affection. Regaining her composure, she clarifies that while she appreciates grand flowers, they carry a heavy air of special formality. She casually admits her preference for gentle greenery in everyday life, seeking comfort over flashy extravagance. Noting her heartfelt preference, he firmly promises to keep her understated tastes in mind for the future. The scene quietly shifts, leaving the lingering warmth of the romantic exchange behind. Time passes in isolation, and Diet reflects gloomily on the long stretch since he last saw Rubina. He rationalizes their separation by reminding himself that their distinct school buildings naturally keep them far apart. Suspicion gnaws at Diet as he notices Patricia mysteriously vanishing whenever the bustling lunchtime rolls around. Searching for companionship, he casually wonders aloud what hearty meal they should eagerly devour today. Spotting a familiar face, Diet excitedly calls out to Shia across the crowded room. Stepping forward with a warm smile, he gently offers to share a comforting lunch with the seemingly isolated girl. Furious, Shia violently rejects his offer and fiercely demands he stop pretending they are actual friends. She bitterly reveals the academy has branded her a poison woman, leaving Diet completely bewildered by the vicious rumor. Trembling with rage, Shia blames Diet for her ruined reputation and her forced, arranged marriage to an unknown older man. Struck by utter confusion, Diet stammers out a defensive demand to know why she holds him responsible. She viciously accuses him of abandoning his fiancée and insulting her, which framed Shia as the sinister mastermind behind the scandal. Shia practically screams that his reckless decision to choose her over his fiancé utterly destroyed her entire life. A suffocating silence falls over the two as the heavy weight of the devastating accusations hangs in the air. Deflecting all personal responsibility, Diet coldly shifts the entire blame onto Rubina's shoulders. He bitterly complains that his own engagement was shattered and his home life has become a living nightmare. Dark thoughts brew in the quiet tension as the two disgraced students wallow in their shared misery. Consumed by toxic malice, a chilling vow for absolute revenge violently escapes into the open air. Their shared hatred violently solidifies as the burning desire for vengeance completely consumes their thoughts. Feeding off each other's delusion, they loudly declare their malicious intent before a sudden shout shatters the moment. Stepping into the fray, classmate Ian Gibson furiously commands the two to reflect on their own wretched mistakes. Shia wildly defends herself, screaming that she never spread baseless rumors or attempted to steal anyone's fiancé. Playing the ultimate victim, she arrogantly proclaims that she is the one whose pristine honor was brutally tarnished. Blind to his own faults, Diet selfishly condemns Rubina for holding a grudge and destroying their engagement despite his supposed forgiveness. A sharp gasp echoes through the tense air as absolute shock paralyzes the scene. Someone firmly confirms their deadly seriousness, leaving the listener utterly stunned and demanding answers. A fierce standoff erupts as the harsh truth is aggressively defended against swirling, absurd rumors. Heavy agreement strikes like a hammer, violently cementing the grim reality of the situation. Furious footsteps echo as utter disgust completely shatters the fragile, tense atmosphere. Scathing venom spills forth, brutally tearing into the manipulative act of playing the weak victim to build false alliances. Bitter frustration mounts as the infuriating realization hits that the entire class foolishly swallowed the toxic rumor. A chilling vow slices through the tension, ensuring this bitter, hostile encounter will never be forgotten. The threat blazes bright, promising to brutally expose her as a scheming manipulator hiding behind a meek facade. A heavy, suffocating silence descends as the crushing weight of the vicious ultimatum hangs in the air. Curiosity sparks instantly as an unexpected detail catches sudden, sharp attention in the quiet aftermath. A sweet fragrance drifts through the room, prompting a sudden inquiry about Rubina's delightful perfume. Rubina quickly apologizes to Sophia, nervously admitting she simply dabbed a little scent on her handkerchief. Sophia warmly praises the beautiful fragrance, prompting Rubina to reveal it was an exclusive sample gifted by Mr. Hudson. Anticipation builds as Rubina explains the highly coveted product hasn't officially hit the shelves for women yet. Excitement bubbles over as the girls eagerly plan a grand upcoming trip to the famously stylish boutique. Close classmates Rachel and Deborah enthusiastically jump in, happily agreeing to turn the shopping trip into a massive group outing. Eager whispers swirl as the girls excitedly press Rubina for a highly desired introduction to the mysterious Mr. Hudson. Flustered, Rubina hastily dials back the wild assumptions, nervously insisting their connection is strictly professional. She firmly clarifies that he only assisted her with a past issue, drawing skeptical but deeply curious glances. Sophia shrewdly points out the perfume gift, suggesting the savvy businessman cleverly wanted her to spread the word among friends. A knowing smirk graces Sophia's face as she keenly assesses the brilliant, manipulative marketing tactic. A hidden truth lingers in the air as Sophia softly notes Rubina's radiant, yet seemingly oblivious, happiness. Anticipation crackles brightly as the girls excitedly declare their eager intent to finally meet Mr. Hudson. Nervous tension grips Rubina as she steps into the dazzling spotlight of her very first grand social event since her debut. Comforting words wash over her, gently reminding her to stay calm among the familiar, welcoming faces of the Earl and Countess. Radiant praise showers down as an enthusiastic guest loudly declares that Rubina looks absolutely adorable tonight. Warm gratitude flows seamlessly as Rubina formally thanks her uncle and aunt for their kind presence at her recent birthday celebration. Polite pleasantries are warmly exchanged, spotlighting Luke's impressive, undeniable growth into a remarkably fine gentleman. Affectionate whispers echo through the hall as an older guest wistfully expresses her deep desire for Rubina to be her daughter-in-law. A bright, bashful blush rushes to Rubina's cheeks as she humbly accepts the incredibly flattering, heartfelt praise. A sudden, familiar voice cuts through the bustling crowd, beckoning Rubina toward a completely unexpected encounter. She turns swiftly, her breath catching violently as a striking figure emerges from the vibrant, glowing party lights. Absolute shock paralyzes Rubina as Mr. Hudson smoothly greets her in the midst of the elegant, high-society gathering. She stammers out a flustered greeting, utterly stunned by his breathtaking and completely transformed appearance. A shocking revelation drops as he boldly requests she call him Jay, deliberately abandoning the Hudson surname entirely. Her heart races wildly as she hesitantly tests his new name, locking eyes in a breathless, intimate moment of connection. Confusion swirls rapidly in her spinning mind as she tries to process the heavy, mysterious implications of his sudden name change. Jay smoothly steps up to the Viscount, politely yet firmly requesting a private, uninterrupted moment with Rubina. Granted swift permission, she is ushered forward with a stern, whispered reminder to strictly maintain her utmost manners. Gesturing into the distance, a figure points out a specific direction during the conversation. Jay explains that while his eldest brother inherits the family estate, he will inherit their father's earldom. He clarifies that he will soon be called Durand, holding an earldom that consists purely of a title without any lands. Shifting the topic, she wonders if she should call him Earl Durand before asking if everything ended well with the gentleman from the other day. With a gentle dismissal of the formal title, he insists that simply calling him Jay is perfectly fine. Pressing gently, he asks if something happened with Diet during their previous tense encounter. Hesitantly, she reveals that Diet is actually her former fiancé and they have officially broken off their engagement. Realizing his misstep, Jay swiftly apologizes for asking such a profoundly rude and personal question. Panicking over making the atmosphere awkward, she desperately searches her mind for a new topic to lighten the mood. Seizing a sudden thought, she eagerly brings up the exquisite perfume he gifted her recently. She enthusiastically asks where he obtained it, noting her friends adored the scent and she wishes to buy more once it launches. Smiling warmly at her praise, he graciously accepts her compliments and enthusiastically agrees to help. The conversation halts as her brother Luke suddenly arrives and calls out her name. Announcing the shifting schedule, Luke informs them that the grand dance is just about to begin. Stepping forward smoothly, Jay formally invites Rubina to join him for the upcoming dance. Acknowledging that dancing is a vital part of social etiquette, she shyly accepts his gracious invitation. Exchanging polite pleasantries, the two properly greet each other before stepping onto the floor. Luke sternly requests Jay to guide his sister carefully since she is still practicing her steps. The pair glides gracefully across the elegant ballroom as the lively music begins to play. They move seamlessly together, fully immersed in the rhythmic flow of the traditional formal dance. Stumbling slightly on a misstep, Rubina gasps in surprise as Jay quickly steadies her frame. Flushing with embarrassment, she apologizes for her clumsiness and vows to practice harder for next time. Thrilled by her implication, he immediately seizes the opening and asks her to promise him their next dance. Overwhelmed by the pressure, she admits that navigating difficult social events makes her fear saying something careless. Relieved, she confesses that his comforting presence makes her forget her nervousness and uneasiness during her first major social event. A distant voice suddenly calls out Jay's name, interrupting their quiet, intimate moment. Apologizing for the sudden departure, Jay thanks her for the wonderful time before hurrying off to answer the summons. Approaching with a warm smile, Cynthia cheerfully bids Rubina a pleasant good evening. Rubina returns the greeting before explaining that she was just speaking with Jay Hudson, the helpful owner of the tea shop. She warmly clarifies to Cynthia, Luke's 19-year-old fiancé, that Jay had kindly assisted her during a past crisis. Teasingly, Cynthia praises their wonderful dance, leaving Rubina thoroughly flushed and terribly embarrassed that they were being watched. Cynthia laughs as she reveals that Luke was watching them with extreme, overprotective intensity. A sudden bolt of realization strikes Rubina as she remembers a crucially important upcoming task. Admitting she still needs a birthday present for her brother, Rubina asks if Cynthia is free next weekend. Thrilled by the invitation, Cynthia absolutely agrees to join her on the shopping trip. Expressing deep gratitude, Cynthia declares she is more than happy to help Rubina with the task. Bidding each other a fond farewell, they express their mutual thanks for the lovely evening. As Luke's fiancée and a relative of Rubina's friend Sophia, Cynthia holds a tightly knit position within their social circle. Cynthia rejoices in the special privilege of secretly taking Rubina out shopping behind Luke's overprotective back. Pushing open the boutique doors, they are warmly welcomed into the stylish establishment. Stepping into the stylish boutique, Rubina warmly greets the owner and announces she is eagerly searching for the perfect present for her brother. Welcoming her with a polite, professional smile, He encourages her to take her time browsing and call him if she needs absolutely anything. Spotting a gorgeously crafted coin case, Rubina marvels out loud at the breathtakingly vivid colors and beautiful, high-quality design. Admiring the vibrant items, Cynthia eagerly asks if Rubina has finally managed to decide on a specific present yet. Weighing various practical options like wallets and fountain pens, Rubina struggles intensely to find the absolute right gift. Stepping in with a brilliant suggestion, Cynthia enthusiastically recommends looking into elegant tie pins or stylish cufflinks. She smartly points out that high-quality accessories seamlessly match multiple outfits and never become a burden for a man to own. Thrilled by the phenomenal advice, Rubina excitedly agrees and warmly thanks Cynthia for the incredibly helpful suggestion. Realizing her brother already owns a massive collection of ties, she confidently decides an elegant tie pin is the absolute perfect choice. Gazing at the magnificent display, she groans in delightful agony because every single piece is far too beautiful to easily choose from. Gliding smoothly to her side, Jay warmly asks if any particular shining accessory has managed to catch her discerning eye. Admitting she is completely overwhelmed by the vast selection, Rubina gratefully accepts his kind offer to inspect the stunning tie pins up close. Staring down at the dazzling tray of jewels, she dramatically despairs over her total inability to make a swift, final decision. Jay cleverly asks what tie colors her brother prefers, prompting Rubina to recall he heavily favors sleek black or dark blue. Cynthia helpfully chimes into the conversation, noting that Luke shares the exact same striking silver hair as his sister Rubina. Utilizing his expert knowledge, Jay recommends a handmade matte silver piece and brilliantly suggests customizing the stunning stone to perfectly match Luke's eye color. Overflowing with excitement, Rubina joyfully selects the gorgeous piece and confidently requests a vibrant purple stone to perfectly suit her brother. Handing over the beautifully wrapped purchase, Jay offers a warm, polite, and deeply professional expression of gratitude. Catching sight of a vibrant display, Cynthia immediately points out a stunning theater poster hanging prominently on the boutique wall. Cynthia excitedly reveals she will be attending that exact play with Luke, noting the thrilling performances dynamically change on a weekly basis. She enthusiastically adds that Sophia is also attending, proving the highly anticipated theatrical play has become the absolute biggest talk at school. Staring longingly at the beautiful poster, Rubina quietly confesses her deep, burning desire to finally experience a spectacular live play. Her excitement rapidly shatters as she realizes attending is practically impossible since the strict venue requires a male partner for entry. Overhearing her wistful lament, Jay steps closer and smoothly asks if she is genuinely interested in seeing the magnificent performance. Shocking her completely, Jay reveals he holds exclusive sponsor tickets and boldly invites her to attend the highly anticipated play together. Flustered and terribly anxious, Rubina tries to politely decline, feeling it is highly inappropriate for them to casually go out alone. Respecting her strict societal boundaries, Jay warmly praises her brilliant caution and highly sensible, proper line of thinking. Determined to secure her company properly, he confidently declares he will formally consult with her powerful father, the Viscount, for explicit permission. Flashing a devastatingly charming smile, he smoothly asks if she will accept his exciting invitation provided her strict father gives his absolute blessing. Blushing furiously, Rubina feels her heart race wildly at his surprisingly bold and incredibly confident romantic pursuit. Utterly flustered by his flawless execution, she internally panics, convinced he must be incredibly used to charming and effortlessly inviting women. Later at home, Rubina completely freaks out over the unbelievable reality of receiving a highly coveted invitation from the elusive Mr. Hudson. Her father calmly approves the outing as a phenomenal social lesson, gently waving away her deep, lingering anxiety about attending unchaperoned by a fiancé. She slowly rationalizes the shocking situation, admitting his incredibly solid aristocratic background and respectful permission-seeking make him exceptionally trustworthy. Entrusting the final decision entirely to his daughter's judgment, her father smoothly pivots the tense conversation to a new, highly intriguing topic. Discussing his flawless reputation, her family highlights his prestigious status as a marquis's third son and his exceptionally kind, gentlemanly treatment of Rubina. Deep suspicion lightly bubbles as they realize there are absolutely zero rumors or confirmed details about his mysterious life before studying abroad. A shocking, silent question suddenly hangs in the tense air as someone wildly doubts if he truly belongs to the esteemed Hudson family. Driven by intense curiosity and fierce protective instincts, Her father firmly decides he must thoroughly investigate the highly enigmatic young man. The scene dramatically closes on the few solid facts known about 21-year-old Jay Hudson, a wildly successful shop manager hiding behind a flawless, aristocratic facade. Following the extravagant evening party, Rubina's parents launch a secretive investigation into Jay's mysterious background. Desperate for immediate answers, they sharply question his highly guarded history with women. Digging deep into his past abroad, they shockingly discover his interactions remain strictly business-related without any romantic ties. Frustration violently mounts as their thorough investigation yields absolutely no rumors or tangible dirt to grasp onto. Needing absolute certainty, they firmly confirm his legitimate, undeniable connection to the prestigious Hudson family. Securing the lineage, they map out his brother's roles as the future Marquis and Royal Secretary, leaving Jay to handle the family's business ventures. Intrigued by his unconventional path, they note how his stylish taste and flawless foreign influence have completely dominated high society tea parties. Weighing his pristine reputation, they reluctantly admit he truly appears to be an exceptionally good person. Grudgingly respecting his immaculate manners, they acknowledge his sheer sincerity in always seeking proper permission before inviting Rubina out. Despite his perfectly clean record, a lingering, undeniable unease continues to heavily haunt their cautious minds. Suspicion flares violently precisely because his flawless perfection feels incredibly, unsettlingly unnatural. Fearing the unknown, they realize his absolute lack of human flaws forms the very foundation of their deep, unshakable mistrust. Anxiety abruptly spikes as they realize the highly anticipated theatrical play is already scheduled for tomorrow. Trapped by strict societal expectations, they acknowledge it is far too late to abruptly decline the generous invitation. Accepting the inevitable, they firmly resolve to maintain extreme, unwavering caution moving forward. Stepping smoothly into the spotlight, Rubina formally greets Lord Jay with a bright, welcoming smile. Admiring her breathtaking appearance, Jay smoothly praises her beautifully airy outfit while thanking her for accepting his invitation. Flushing with pure delight, Rubina excitedly returns the compliment and marvels at his remarkably wonderful attire. Spotting the delicate violet accessory gifted by her brother, Jay warmly highlights the beautiful, meaningful detail. Pivoting swiftly to official matters, Jay respectfully thanks Viscount Rosen for taking the precious time to meet with him. Issuing a stern warning, the Viscount firmly commands Rubina to avoid causing any unnecessary trouble during the outing. Turning his piercing gaze to Jay, the protective father passionately demands he take absolute care of his beloved daughter. Offering a flawless, gentlemanly bow, Jay gracefully requests Rubina's delicate hand to safely escort her away. Burning with intense curiosity, Rubina quickly asks Jay what heavy topics he discussed with her stern father. Jay calmly reveals her father prohibited her from drinking and promised to meet them personally immediately after the show. Embarrassment crashes violently over Rubina as she apologizes for her father treating her like a heavily guarded child. Brushing off her anxious apologies, Jay warmly praises her father's deeply protective and profoundly caring nature. A strange sensation gnaws sharply at Rubina's mind as she senses a bizarre shift in her father's usual commanding demeanor. Reflecting on his parting words, she desperately tries to decipher the hidden weight behind his intense plea to protect her. Breaking her intense train of thought, Jay smoothly announces their grand, highly anticipated arrival at the magnificent theater. Stepping inside, Rubina gasps in sheer awe at the breathtakingly opulent, dazzling surroundings. Intimidated by the glamorous adult world, a massive wave of profound insecurity violently crashes over her. Sensing her rapidly escalating panic, Jay gently asks if the grand environment is making her feel incredibly nervous. Encouraging her to embrace the thrill, he firmly insists it would be a tragic waste not to thoroughly enjoy the grand experience. Reassured by his warm, grounding presence, she firmly pushes down her lingering anxieties and follows his confident lead. Guiding her gracefully through the sprawling venue, Jay expertly navigates them toward their exclusive, high-class viewing spot. Shock paralyzes Rubina as she realizes they possess incredibly rare, luxurious box seats right in the absolute center of the second tier. Overwhelmed by the majestic, sweeping view, she stares silently down at the sprawling, magnificent stage far below. Crushed by the extravagant luxury, she anxiously claims such impossibly fine seats are completely, utterly wasted on someone like her. Locking intense eyes with her, Jay passionately declares he secured the exquisite invitation precisely because she is the incredible Lady Rubina. Jay sincerely explains he wants Rubina to watch her very first play from an excellent seat. He hopes the incredible view will help her become a genuine, lifelong fan of the theater. Realizing his sponsor's status plays a major role, she listens as he elaborates on his true intentions. Jay warmly confesses it brings him immense joy when someone learns to love the things he deeply treasures. Suddenly, the lights dim as the highly anticipated performance finally begins. A captivating romance unfolds on stage, depicting a noble man and a downtown woman separated by rigid social classes. The theatrical tension peaks as the star-crossed lovers face fierce, relentless opposition from everyone around them. Heartbreak violently strikes the stage as the devoted woman tragically decides to step away from her noble lover. The heavy curtains fall, signaling the start of a brief but emotionally charged intermission. Thrilled by the performance, Rubina excitedly wonders aloud if the lovers will miraculously reunite in the second act. Jay chuckles, asking for her predictions while hinting he already knows the tear-jerking finale. Panicking playfully, she desperately begs him not to spoil the grand ending. An unexpected voice cuts through the crowd, cheerfully greeting Jay in the bustling theater. An acquaintance approaches, surprised but pleased to find Jay attending the popular event. Excusing himself politely, Jay steps away for a brief moment to converse with his peer. Left completely alone, Rubina watches him leave while lost in deep, swirling thoughts. Her mind drifts to Lord Jay's impossibly kind, attentive, and flawlessly perfect nature. She draws a striking parallel, realizing he perfectly mirrors the grand, noble protagonist from the heartbreaking play. Crushing insecurity grips her as she painfully compares her own plain, uninteresting demeanor to his dazzling presence. Hearing soft whispers nearby, she fears society views them as a dreadfully ill-suited match. Self-doubt spirals uncontrollably, convincing her a glamorous, sophisticated woman would suit Lord Jay far better. Snapping out of her spiral, she fiercely questions why she is entertaining such foolish, romantic anxieties. She reminds herself their relationship strictly ignores social standing, but a sharp voice suddenly shatters her thoughts. A hostile figure aggressively steps into her view, demanding immediate attention. The atmosphere instantly thickens as the unexpected intruder coldly glares down at her. Recognizing the furious face, Rubina gasps Patricia's name in utter shock. Patricia sneers, mockingly questioning how a supposedly sheltered daughter of the House of Rosen sneaked into such a popular play. Paralyzed by the confrontation, Rubina nervously hesitates, fearing the truth of her invitation will only ignite Patricia's rage. Scanning Rubina's attire, Patricia viciously insults her plain dress and deems her entirely inappropriate for the venue. Furious over the insult to the dress Lily chose, Rubina silently endures Patricia's harsh claim that children do not belong here. A sudden voice abruptly calls out Patricia's name, breaking the hostile tirade. A man steps forward, politely apologizing to Rubina if his fiancé caused any offense. Jay swiftly returns to the scene, urgently checking on Rubina as the tension rapidly escalates. Seeing Jay, Patricia completely loses her temper, wildly accusing Rubina of already snagging another man. Stepping protectively in front of Rubina, Jay coldly demands to know if they have any business with his companion. Unfazed, the man asks for his identity, prompting Jay to smoothly introduce himself as Jay Hudson. The man formally introduces himself as Nathan Jones, revealing he will soon marry Patricia and join the House of Smith. Total shock washes over Rubina as she processes the sudden marriage and what it means for Patricia's time at the academy. Clearly intoxicated and enraged, Patricia furiously accuses Rubina of looking down on her. Nathan quickly restrains his chaotic fiancée, angrily threatening to drag her home if she continues causing a drunken scene. Furious and entirely unhinged, Patricia violently accuses Rubina of deliberately setting her up to take the ultimate fall. She bitterly screams that getting dragged into the chaotic drama with Diet forced her to abandon the academy and marry entirely against her will. Glaring with raw malice, she aggressively questions the devastating, baseless rumors surrounding her supposedly atrocious behavior. Desperation bleeding into her fierce voice, she violently insists she did absolutely nothing to deserve such a brutally harsh punishment. Refusing to accept a shred of blame, Patricia forcefully declares she is absolutely not some manipulative, wicked woman. Spitting with pure venom, she furiously dismisses the entire catastrophic scandal as nothing more than Rubina's pathetic, petty grudge. Nathan steps forward to firmly silence his erratic fiancée, completely cutting off Rubina's frantic attempts to defend herself. Completely ignoring her partner's warning, Patricia wildly screams her absolute hatred and viciously brands Rubina a filthy hussy. In a sudden blur of motion, a heavy glass is violently hurled through the tense, suffocating theater air. Dark liquid arcs viciously toward its stunned target, threatening to completely ruin the incredibly elegant evening. Screaming his name in absolute terror, Rubina watches helplessly as Jay fearlessly leaps directly into the violent crossfire. Taking the brutal brunt of the vicious attack, Jay uses his own body as an impenetrable shield to completely protect her. Ignoring his own ruined attire, Jay smoothly apologizes to a deeply shocked Rubina for allowing a few stray drops to stain her gorgeous dress. Brushing off the catastrophic mess on his coat, he warmly reassures her that the sudden damage is absolutely nothing to worry about. Trembling with overwhelming guilt, Rubina completely ignores her own dress and frantically worries about Jay's shockingly soaked clothes. Shifting his piercing, dangerously calm gaze, Jay slowly turns his undivided attention toward the utterly unhinged attacker. With devastating sarcasm, he coldly asks the aggressive young lady if she simply tripped and miraculously managed to remain entirely unhurt. A suffocating gasp violently escapes Patricia's lips as the sheer, freezing weight of his intense intimidation heavily crashes down upon her. Smiling with chilling grace, Jay smoothly declares his profound relief that her own clothes managed to avoid getting disastrously dirty. The harsh reality of navigating high society drama violently shatters the elegant illusion, proving socializing is an incredibly dangerous noble duty. A heavy, deathly silence violently grips the theater corridor as the severe consequences of the reckless outburst finally sink in. Bowing her head in absolute shame, Rubina profusely apologizes to Jay for single-handedly ruining the spectacularly lovely performance. Furious beyond measure, Nathan violently grabs his erratic fiancé and loudly commands their immediate, highly disgraceful departure. Thrashing wildly against his iron grip, Patricia selfishly screams and fiercely demands to know why she is being forcefully dragged away. Exploding with pent-up rage, Nathan viciously reprimands her for completely destroying the rare, hard-earned tickets he worked so desperately to secure. Stunned by his bizarre priorities, Rubina silently realizes Nathan is entirely enraged over theater tickets rather than Patricia ruining Lord Jay's exquisite clothes. Tightening his fierce grip, Nathan fiercely orders her to let go and immediately prepare to head straight back home. Cutting off her desperate attempts to blindly blame the innocent woman, Nathan decisively screams that he has finally had enough. Swallowing his overwhelming pride, Nathan deeply acknowledges Lord Hudson's magnificent generosity in completely overlooking his fiancée's catastrophic rudeness. Glaring daggers at his soon-to-be wife, he severely commands her to entirely cease causing any further disastrous trouble. Shock completely paralyzes Patricia, leaving her utterly speechless in the face of such overwhelming, fiercely authoritative fury. Bowing deeply in profound shame, Nathan begs for Jay's absolute forgiveness and solemnly promises a massive, formal apology at a later date. Accepting the apology with a terrifyingly calm smile, Jay casually promises to report the entire disastrous matter directly to her powerful father. The crushing weight of absolute doom immediately settles over the disgraced couple as they realize their horrendous actions have permanently sealed their grim fate. Drowning in deep regret, Rubina sadly confesses her painful failure to bravely stand up for herself when it mattered most. Comforting her with unmatched grace, Jay firmly insists the deeply chaotic woman would have inevitably lost her vile temper no matter what anyone said. Glancing softly at her beautiful attire, he gently notes the tragic reality that her gorgeous dress sustained a highly unfortunate stain. Desperately shaking her head, Rubina firmly insists her tiny stain means absolutely nothing compared to his completely destroyed evening outfit. Brushing off her intense concern with effortless charm, Jay warmly asks if she truly managed to enjoy the spectacular play before the chaos erupted. Snapping out of her deep gloom, Rubina quickly realizes her incredibly sad expression is only causing the flawless Lord Jay even more unnecessary worry. Walking closely together, Jay gently asks Rubina to honestly share her thoughts on the spectacular play. Hesitating slightly, she timidly asks if it is truly okay to be honest before admitting she enjoyed herself immensely despite the chaotic interruption. Unable to contain her overflowing joy, Rubina enthusiastically declares that the entire performance was absolutely wonderful. Gushing with excitement, she praises the magical wedding scene and rejoices that the star-crossed lovers finally secured their desperately earned happy ending. Chuckling warmly at her vibrant enthusiasm, Jay expresses his genuine gladness that she thoroughly enjoyed the thrilling performance. Diving deeper, Rubina passionately praises the beautiful downtown woman who worked incredibly hard to become truly worthy of her noble partner. She deeply admires the incredible courage of the heroine, whose relentless effort allowed her to transform into a magnificent, fully accepted lady. Staring upward with renewed determination, she vows to use that beautiful courage to continue changing herself for the absolute better. Beaming with unmistakable pride, Jay softly replies that he is incredibly glad to hear her newly found, steadfast resolution. A quiet moment of pure, unspoken affection heavily settles between them as they share a meaningful, lingering gaze. The scene abruptly shifts to a tense, highly formal meeting where profound, deeply shameful apologies are hastily offered to Viscount Rosen. The grave discussion centers around the complete cancellation of Patricia's engagement, ensuring the innocent Earl Smith's daughter remains entirely uninvolved. Viscount Rosen sternly addresses the catastrophic situation, warning that it would be incredibly troublesome if Patricia were to harbor any lingering, dangerous grudges. Bowing deeply in total submission, Nathan truly apologizes and grimly admits he should have forcefully stopped her horrendous actions immediately. Viscount Rosen sharply criticizes Nathan's utter lack of reliability, pointing out his pathetic failure to restrain his own fiancée during the violent outburst. Pressing his absolute authority, the stern father demands to perfectly understand exactly what devastating consequences they intend to enforce from now on. Stripping away her luxurious future, Nathan declares Patricia will be swiftly moved to a foreign country after marriage to live and work as an ordinary citizen. He coldly confirms the ultimate punishment, brutally sealing her dark fate by ensuring she will entirely cease to be a member of the nobility. Her father proudly announces he has already hired a highly qualified tutor to swiftly prepare his younger daughter to properly inherit the massive estate instead. Delivering his final, ironclad guarantee, Nathan swears that the disgraced Patricia will absolutely never cross paths with Rubina ever again. Accepting the harsh terms, Viscount Rosen fiercely orders Nathan to fulfill his marital duty and watch over his chaotic bride properly. With chilling finality, the Viscount declares the entire catastrophic matter permanently settled, provided Nathan keeps his absolute, binding promise. Sweating profusely under the intense pressure, Nathan desperately gives his absolute word to uphold the strict, unforgiving terms. Breathing a massive sigh of relief, Rubina quietly realizes she will likely never have to face the wrath of that highly unstable woman ever again. With her engagement to Dietrich fully dissolved, Rubina confidently attends vibrant social season parties while her father efficiently declines endless marriage proposals. Despite her father's massive protective shield, overly eager aristocratic sons still frequently corner her with intense, highly aggressive introductions. Ignoring her blatant discomfort, a pushy suitor aggressively suggests they abandon their stiff parents and sneak away to talk privately. Completely oblivious to her distress, the oblivious parents laugh happily and deliberately abandon the young couple to foster a sudden romance. Smirking with absolute triumph, the relentless suitor moves aggressively to isolate the panicked Rubina from the bustling, crowded party. Trapped in a highly uncomfortable situation, she frantically prays for her father to immediately return and rescue her. Stepping into the breach, her sharp-eyed father smoothly interrupts, coldly claiming his daughter desperately needs to greet someone far more important. The aggressive suitor freezes as Viscount Rosen warmly welcomes the highly esteemed Lord Hudson to their tense, crowded circle. Flashing a flawlessly charming smile, Jay smoothly greets the Rosen family and politely asks if his sudden arrival is unfortunately interrupting anything. Relief violently washes over Rubina as she greets Lord Jay, desperately hoping he can somehow shatter the pushy suitor's ironclad grip. Assessing the highly uncomfortable dynamic, Jay locks his piercing, calculating gaze directly onto the deeply annoying, persistent suitor. Smoothly bypassing the tension, Jay locks eyes with Rubina and boldly asks if she remembers their beautiful, highly anticipated promise regarding a dance. Leaning in with devastating charm, he softly declares his immense eagerness to finally see the stunning results of her dedicated dance practice. A furious, bright blush instantly explodes across Rubina's face as her heart races wildly at his incredibly smooth, romantic rescue. Turning his icy glare toward the completely stunned suitor, Jay sharply demands he immediately let go of her hand, claiming a strict prior engagement. Stunned by the sudden, overwhelming authority, the pushy young man stammers in absolute shock as his romantic ambush is violently shut down. Releasing a heavy sigh, Rubina dramatically slumps her shoulders in absolute exhaustion. Desperate for relief, Rubina begs her father to refuse the relentless arranged marriage introductions, to which he firmly confirms their house is already declining them. Her father sternly notes that while ignoring a greeting is impolite, a suitor grabbing her hand without permission crosses the line into sheer disrespect. Glancing toward Lord Hudson, the Viscount confidently assures her that such crude behavior will absolutely never be an issue with a true gentleman. Flashing a reassuring smile, Jay smoothly agrees with the Viscount's sharp assessment. Stepping forward with flawless grace, Jay formally requests the honor of another dance from the flustered Lady Rubina. Turning his commanding presence to the Viscount, Jay politely requests permission to spend a little more time by his daughter's side. Trusting the young lord completely, the Viscount firmly leaves his beloved daughter in Jay's highly capable care. Rubina softly thanks Lord Jay for rescuing her, but he smoothly brushes it off, claiming he simply wanted to be the one to invite her. Blushing fiercely, Rubina points out his effortlessly smooth demeanor and cleverly deduces that he must be highly practiced at charming women. Recalling his flawless escorting skills at the theater, she openly wonders if he has confidently approached many other women with the exact same polished tactics. Shattering his calm facade, Jay wildly waves his hands and desperately insists her assumption is a massive, terrible misunderstanding. Locking his intense gaze with hers, he fiercely declares that he absolutely does not just go around sweet-talking any random person. He warmly confesses that watching her wait so wholeheartedly outside that day ignited a deep, burning desire to help her. Hearing she had never experienced a play instantly triggered his fierce protective instinct to personally show her the magnificent world of theater. Staring into her eyes, he softly admits that he constantly finds himself irresistibly drawn to lending her a helping hand. Closing the distance between them, Jay passionately vows that he simply wants to make her incredibly happy. Chuckling lightly, he points out that her constant knack for getting tangled in wild situations makes it utterly impossible to take his eyes off her. Pouting with a fiery blush, Rubina sharply questions if he is openly accusing her of being a sheer magnet for disastrous trouble. Her defensive pride violently crumbles as she silently realizes he is absolutely right and that he is always the one swooping in to save her. Recalling his endless rescues from their first meeting to the theater incident, she gasps as he suddenly pulls her in close. Leaning in with fierce determination, Jay promises to instantly come to her aid anytime she simply calls his name. Radiating unshakable confidence, he passionately swears to protect Lady Rubina from absolutely any kind of trouble that dares to cross her path. Her heart races wildly as she frantically thinks their budding relationship has not quite reached the intimate level to warrant such a bold, dramatic declaration. Gazing at her intently, Jay playfully suggests they try deepening their current relationship. Flustered by his bold words, Rubina loudly accuses Lord Jay of being a massive flirt who loves teasing her. Smiling warmly, Jay firmly denies teasing her and confesses he simply feels swept away by how much he genuinely enjoys her company. Excited classmates surround Rubina, eagerly demanding details about her highly anticipated dance with Lord Hudson at the recent evening party. Fueling the wild gossip, the girls aggressively piece together her theater date and perfume gift to imply a secret romance. Panicking instantly, Rubina violently shuts down the brewing dating rumors with a frantic, desperate denial. While her friends sigh in deep disappointment, Rubina internally frets that such baseless rumors will severely bother Lord Jay. Sipping her tea calmly, one friend softly notes how exceptionally well Lord Hudson always treats Rubina. Stirring the pot further, another classmate outright questions if the handsome Lord harbors genuine, hidden romantic feelings for her. Rubina desperately rationalizes his actions, insisting he only helped her out of a bind and instinctively aids her because she frequently attracts trouble. Reflecting on the flustering atmosphere between them, she stubbornly convinces herself he merely worries about her like a hopelessly clumsy child. Clenching her fists, she fiercely warns her own fragile heart absolutely not to expect too much from his dazzling kindness. Pressing for more juicy details, her friends eagerly ask if she has any solid plans to meet him again soon. Rubina shyly admits she requested updates on the perfume release while noting he is always the one forcefully initiating contact at grand parties. Catching that crucial detail, the girls gasp in pure astonishment that Lord Jay aggressively initiates all their romantic encounters. Bursting with sheer excitement, her friends joyfully declare they are fully rooting for her budding, highly dramatic romance. Blushing furiously, Rubina wildly flails her arms and desperately screams that they absolutely do not share that kind of intimate relationship. Unable to handle the intense, suffocating teasing any longer, She forcefully demands they immediately drop the highly embarrassing topic. Desperate to change the subject, she frantically steers the volatile conversation directly toward their looming afternoon classes. Pivoting swiftly, a classmate nervously asks if they have finally finalized a solid project for the upcoming Grand School Festival. Groaning in collective frustration, the girls admit they remain completely undecided and struggle fiercely to settle on a single, brilliant idea. Determined to stand out, one ambitious student passionately declares she wants to execute a highly unique project only their specific class can achieve. Staring intensely into the distance, a sudden, electrifying spark of inspiration violently strikes Rubina's rapidly spinning mind. Sensing a massive shift, her friends call out to her as she intensely mutters a mysterious, cryptic idea about divided light and shadow.